Welcome to our channel, the place where hidden truths surface, emotions collide, and every story pulls you deeper into a world of suspense and psychological drama. Here, we don't just tell stories, we unravel secrets, explore betrayal, and dive into the darkest corners of human desire, anger, and ambition. If you're drawn to intense narratives, shocking twists, and characters pushed to their breaking point, you're in the right place. Subscribe and stay with us, because beyond every gate lies a truth that was never meant to be revealed. Tomas had always believed that truth, once uncovered, possessed an unstoppable gravity. It pulled events toward resolution, toward clarity, toward justice. Yet in the seconds before everything collapsed, he realized how fragile that belief truly was. The truth he carried inside him was no longer a shield. It had become a target. His pulse hammered violently as the realization struck that exposing Haley as Val would not merely dismantle a lie, but ignite a chain reaction capable of destroying lives, including his own. Fear clawed at him, but beneath it simmered a deeper emotion: rage. Rage at the manipulation, at the years of deception that had twisted memories and loyalties into something unrecognizable. Tomas felt betrayed not only by Haley, but by himself. He had ignored signs, rationalized inconsistencies, convinced himself that doubt was weakness. Now, standing on the edge of revelation, he understood that his hesitation had given the lie time to grow teeth. The attack came not as a surprise, but as an inevitability. Randy's presence carried a raw, volatile energy, fueled by desperation and a sense of righteous fury that had long since lost its moral compass. For Randy, this was not about protecting someone else. It was about preserving control. The lie had given him leverage, purpose, and power. Without it, he would be nothing more than a man exposed, stripped bare of relevance. That fear fermented into anger so corrosive it eclipsed reason. The impact was brutal and sudden, shattering the fragile balance of the moment. Tomas's thoughts fractured as pain surged through him, but even as his body failed, his mind refused to surrender. His anger burned hotter than the pain, feeding a stubborn refusal to let the truth die with him. Yet the world dimmed, and with it came the crushing realization that sometimes courage is not enough. Sometimes the truth arrives too late. Bill stood frozen, his mind splintering under the weight of what he was witnessing. The scene before him dismantled his understanding of everyone involved. Shock surged first, followed swiftly by guilt. He had sensed tension, seen cracks forming beneath the surface, but had chosen distance over involvement. Watching Tomas fall forced Bill to confront the cost of his silence. His instinct screamed to act, but his body betrayed him, rooted in place by fear and disbelief. Inside Bill, two opposing forces collided. One demanded justice, urging him to step forward, to finally take responsibility and expose the rot festering around them. The other whispered caution, reminding him of what he stood to lose: his career, his reputation, his carefully constructed life, all balanced precariously on the edge of a single decision. The longer he hesitated, the more complicit he felt, and that awareness ignited a slow-burning anger directed inward. Randy, meanwhile, spiraled deeper into his own internal war. The violence had not brought relief, only a hollow echo of triumph quickly replaced by dread. He told himself it had been necessary, that extreme measures were justified when survival was at stake. Yet the image of Tomas collapsing replayed relentlessly in his mind, eroding the narrative he clung to. Every justification felt thinner, every rationalization more fragile. He had crossed a line that could never be erased, and somewhere beneath the rage, fear took root. Haley's absence loomed over everything like a silent accusation. The identity she had constructed as Val was not merely a disguise, it was armor forged through years of calculated choices. Her motivations were complex, born from desperation, ambition, and a need to reclaim agency stolen from her long ago. She had learned early that vulnerability invited destruction, and so she chose reinvention over honesty. Yet the closer the truth crept to the surface, the more suffocating the lie became. Unaware of the immediate violence, Haley felt the pressure tightening around her. Paranoia gnawed at her thoughts, each passing moment amplifying the sense that her carefully curated world was unraveling. She was torn between running and standing her ground, between self-preservation and the faint, dangerous desire to finally be seen for who she truly was. That inner conflict manifested as anger, at Tomas for digging too deep, at Randy for his unpredictability, and at herself for believing she could outpace the past forever. As Tomas lay caught between consciousness and darkness, his mind drifted through fragments of memory, faces blurred together, moments of trust twisting into bitter irony. His anger sharpened into resolve, a silent vow that even if his voice failed, the truth would not disappear entirely. He clung to the belief that secrets have a way of resurfacing, carried by those who witness their burial. Bill's paralysis finally crocked, replaced by a grim determination. The shock transformed into something colder, more dangerous, clarity. He recognized that neutrality was no longer an option. Every path forward carried consequences, and avoiding them would only deepen the damage. The weight of that realization pressed heavily on him, igniting a fierce internal battle between fear and responsibility. The decision looming before him promised no victory, only varying degrees of loss. Randy sensed the shift almost immediately. He could feel control slipping, replaced by an oppressive uncertainty. His anger flared again, this time mixed with panic. He had acted to silence a threat, yet in doing so he had exposed himself to even greater danger. Violence had solved nothing. It had only accelerated the collapse he feared most. The walls were closing in, and he knew that every move from this point forward would be made under scrutiny. The aftermath of the attack left a vacuum filled with suspicion and unspoken blame. Each character retreated into their own fractured psyche, replaying the moment through the lens of regret, fury, and fear. Trust eroded rapidly, replaced by defensive instincts and calculated restraint. No one emerged unscathed. The incident had become a fault line, splitting alliances and forcing buried emotions to the surface. What bound them all together was a shared understanding that the situation had reached a point of no return. Tomas's near-silenced truth hovered over them like a ghost, demanding resolution. Bill's impending choice threatened to expose everything. Randy's desperation made him volatile, unpredictable. Haley's secret identity teetered on the brink of exposure, her past colliding violently with her present. Each character stood trapped by their own decisions, pushed into corners carved by anger and fear. The pressure mounted, stripping away pretense and revealing raw motivations beneath. Survival now depended not on loyalty or morality, but on how far each was willing to go to protect themselves. And as the tension coiled tighter, it became clear that the greatest danger was no longer the truth itself, but what each of them was prepared to sacrifice to keep it buried, or finally set it free. As the dust settles, nothing truly ends. It mutates. What looked like a moment of violence was only the spark that ignited something far more dangerous. The truth Tomas nearly revealed does not die with silence. It lingers, festering in the minds of those who witness the fall and those who fear what comes next. Every glance now carries suspicion, every memory feels compromised, and every choice moving forward becomes a potential act of betrayal. Bill stands at the edge of a decision that could destroy lives, including his own, while Randy's rage evolves into paranoia, pushing him closer to irreversible mistakes. And somewhere in the shadows, Haley, or Val, realizes that survival may demand a final transformation, one that leaves no trace of who she once was. The lines between victim and villain blur completely, forcing each character to confront a brutal question. How far are they willing to go when the truth is no longer a threat, but a weapon? What comes next won't be justice or redemption, it will be consequences. And once the next move is made, there will be no turning back.